most misunderstood part of our profession is what we do, and I think it's our job every day to educate the public, the parents, the athletes on what exactly our role is here. My role is not to hold you out from sports, right? My role is to make sure that you're participating in sports in a healthy and safe manner. And I think letting them know kind of the training that we have, the background we have, and always kind of putting that best foot forward. When we were looking to choose kind of the platform that we were going to use for, neurocognitive testing, we strive to be the industry leader in what we do in outreach athletic training. And so we looked at a lot of the research that kind of came behind ImPACT and, really the ability to look at a lot of objective data throughout a course of an athlete's history. And so that really played a key factor into it, as well as the ability to administer it to a pretty large population in an efficient manner. So we looked at all of those components and we saw it as an industry leader, as we are, and that was really kind of the direction we decided to go in. The continued offerings are the biggest part. Right now, we've been working with the ITRN program to really kind of say, okay, now we're at the schools, right? We're the ones that are looking at the test. Now let's get the nurses involved, because they have to be involved. They're the ones in the building all day long. So we are now, as a part of ATI, offering the ITRN out to our nurses, right? Hey, we have this great partnership with ImPACT. Why don't you take advantage of it? So now we're all speaking the same language, right? Same with the ITPT certification and the OT certification, right? Those are our clinics. Those are the clinicians that are actually treating our athletes when they're coming in. So we all want to be able to speak the same language, the same platform. I think one of the neatest things that just came was the passport application for parents and kids, right? Now they take the test before they leave. What do we make them do? We make them download the app. They download the app, they enter their information in, and they're kind of walking out the door, and now the circle's been closed altogether. We made the ITAT program a requirement because while it's important to be able to administer the test, it's also important to really understand everything that goes into the test, understand kind of the direction it takes, the functionality of it, how we can sit down with a parent and maybe better explain what does this mean. And I think for us as a company, if we're going to offer it and there's a certification, that's what's most important, right? And so it also then allows them to sometimes educate the physicians, right? If we're not using physicians that are familiar with the product or have used it a lot, they're now able to have some very educated conversation and directional conversations so that athlete gets that individualized plan. When we deliver our whole package of a concussion, here's our concussion folder that kind of walks in with the parent, has everything in it. Those doctors, they listen. General consensus in the medical population, right, is concussions aren't exclusive to athletes. And I think the challenge is when we have the non-athletes, they don't have any education on concussions. And so I see offering baseline to our non-student population is that baseline for education on why are we doing this test and what does it mean? Hey, when you have a concussion, right, it's a big deal, right? They're in gym class, they get hit by a ball, they're in a car accident outside of the school building, and then they come into the nurse and they don't have any idea what a concussion is. So we see it as kind of that first line of education to our non-athletes to say, hey, here's a concussion, here's what it's all about. It's a little bit more than just running down to the doctor for an x-ray for an ankle sprain. We have a platform to go along with it. One of the nice parts about ImPACT is the ability to, test a lot of people at one time, but the way we kind of do our testing is, we'll set up our room with our 10 students and we'll start a test. And we have, multiple administrators there at the same time, and we'll get the test started, we'll get the test underway. And I feel like it's important for the athletic trainer to be in the room, through all of the directions and, okay, let's start that part. I always tell them when it changes from, red to blue, then it's time to kind of shift in and we'll start. So we stagger our testing groups. So, while, we have a small room going at one time, we're able to, if you stagger the start times, able to go from one room to the next room to the next room. So theoretically, you can test a football team, in a 2-hour span of time, as long as they're coming in staggered at a certain time. So for us, being that most of my staff is one person at one school with 16 teams, right? The ability to be able to set up the situations like that is ideal. When it comes to ImPACT, one of the nicest features about kind of collaborating communication on all levels is the actual report, right? It's the one thing that parents can truly see about an injury and give actual visual data to say, hey, you see this red mark, you see this red line, you see this exaggerated score, do you see the difference in things? And that, I think, is for me, the greatest quality in what we provide in that ImPACT is that you give the parents a visual piece of paper that says, hey, something's going on. It might not be a concussion, it might be, but they have something in their hands to say, maybe Lisa isn't crazy. It's very hard to lie to the ImPACT test. You'll talk to an athlete and they'll, oh, no, I don't have a headache, everything's great. And I think they get into the process of, I think this is one of the nice factors of the ImPACT test is you get into the beginning part and you're answering questions, right? And you start to forget about the conversation that you just had with an athletic trainer, right? So you get about 5-10 minutes in, they've had a conversation, now they're filling out, this is my address, this is my date of birth. And I never skip that section on a post-injury test because they've then relaxed. Then they get to their symptom checklist and they forget what they've just told you. So now they start to answer truthfully, right? Because now they're in the mindset of, I gotta pass this test, right? I've gotta get great scores. So they start to answer, their questions, and now they're being honest. Then they take the test, they've forgotten all about what they said in the beginning. And so now you get that true, I think the symptom checklist part is probably that's the truest form of an answer from an athlete because they forget. They're in their computer world. The technology that our youth, right, is used to is what really allows them to be comfortable in this test, and it allows them they just get into habit and they just start pointing and clicking and answering and yes and no, and they don't start to think about that person who's standing over their shoulder watching that answer on that test. When it comes to the return to play process, we like to utilize the ImPACT as a tool as well as our evaluation. And so I think for coaches, again, right, coaches, we're going to go back to our parents a little bit of coaches need to see that picture, right? They need to see something on paper that says, this is exactly what's going on. When you sprain your ankle, you can see an athlete run, right? When you have a concussion, you can't see what's kind of going on in that brain. So we go back to that test, right, our post-injury test that says, hey coach, we're looking really good. This is where we were post-injury 1. This is where we are post-injury 3. I think we're really close to taking that next step. And so, for us, it's just that communication of that as well as the symptoms and what we're finding in our evaluation process. For some schools, when it comes to hiring an athletic trainer, I think one of the nice pieces about hiring a company like ATI is it takes the worry off of them. When ATI comes in, we provide them a lot of resources, right? We have supervisors that make sure that our staff is following the law, documenting our injuries, doing exactly what's needed. And so I think for a lot of our schools, it's not necessarily cost savings, but it's more of a, stress reliever or not knowing really what we do. We could do a better job as a profession in educating our coaches and our athletes, and I think it comes down to the athletic trainer, right? I think it's our job to educate our coaches, our parents, our athletes on what is a concussion, what are we looking for, what are the signs and symptoms, how are we gonna kind of bring them up to the level where we are. And so as a company, we mandate our concussion training, right? As well as what we do with ImPACT, we mandate that our athletic trainers are out there and they're talking at every parent meeting about, hey, this is what our concussion policy is, this is what we're looking for. We've worked with a lot of different doctors in our areas where we're located to make sure that our evaluation tools that we're using are exactly what we should be looking at. When we hand it to a parent, it's a duplicate with a note on the back that really says, hey, this is what you're looking for tonight. This is where you can find more information. And so for us, it's very important that those parents get that information. And I think it's really in the hands of, right, the healthcare professionals to do that and to educate those parents and those coaches. The technology that's there now allows us to have more of a multifaceted approach, and it allows us to look at a lot of different components rather than just, do you have a headache? Do you not feel so good? Great, you probably have a concussion. So I think it allows us to take a lot of different components together and really kind of dive down into exactly what's going on with that athlete and almost provide a higher level of care for them. To those that haven't, yet chosen ImPACT, I think people need to really look at all of the outlying values of it, right? The ease of use for a parent, the ease of use for an athlete when it comes to the app, right? I don't think there's anything easier than pulling up an app on your phone when you're 10 states away playing on a club team and saying, hey, here's my test, right? That right there is one of the greatest selling factors of how we market out into our youth community of using this product. The Passport app was one of the greatest additions to ImPACT. In the beginning, we thought about, okay, what ways can we do a business card and write your passport number on it? And so we had devised cards. So when the app came out for us, it was perfect, right? Kids have their phones with them everywhere. You tell them to turn their phone off for the test, and somebody has it on vibrate in their bag, right? So it's great because the test is over. They're going to lose a card. They're never going to give it to their mom. No matter how many times you tell them to put their parent email in at the end of the test, they still put their own email, and moms and dads never get the information. So having that app right there at their hands to be able to put that, to have it right there and to explain to them exactly what it does, exactly what purpose it is, I think is probably one of the greatest selling points that the company has added to the program. I think the students like the Passport app, right? That's what they're used to. It's the app age, it's the technology age, so they love the app. It's a way for them to interact.